So your wing should be looking something like this now. You've played around with the values and the expressions, even on the most basic of levels. You've added in a bit of variety. And your wing, yeah, we can play around with that a lot more. But what we should do now is probably focus on getting the right wing in. And then when the horse is posed, then we can adjust the wings and the feathers a little bit more to match the pose. But that's one thing we haven't tested yet, and that is how this holds up when you pose the wing. I mean, if we look at the wing here, but then we jump across to frame 1 with our pose, suddenly the wing has shrunk a lot. And this is down to what we've done with the expression. So let's go back to frame -1. If we just look at that again, this is shrinking, whereas that's quite wide, and we don't really want that for our pose, for our illustration. So let's just quickly revisit our expression. So let's look at the primary one first. So the length is the first issue. Now if you remember, we just used P before, which worked fine, but let's see what other options there are. So we used P because it calculated the surface point at which the primitive is being evaluated. Now what that might be doing is calculating it from the world root. So as the wing was laid out flat, it's further away from the world root, so it looked fine to us, but as the wing is raised, it's coming closer to the world root, thus it's not moving as much of a distance, which really we don't want. We don't want the horse to be running around and the feathers adjusting in size depending on how far away it is from the world root. So we need to work on the world space rather than more of a local space. So let's see what other options there are. So we could use this, the surface point without displacement, world space. But instead let's just the reference surface point without displacement, world space. So let's just try that one instead. That might give us a bit more flexibility. If we click accept, so now you see that the feathers are now longer. So they're now retaining that original length, regardless. Now obviously, it's the path that the way that the feathers are pointing has changed because we haven't updated the other expressions. So let's just change the width. So it was, let's just copy that, accept that. So that's updated the width, the tilt, accept that. Was there anything else? Like so. So we could just leave it like that. What we could do is maybe experiment with the other one just to see what the difference is. So if you remember, there was a Pref GW, but there's also the PGW. Now that's not worked really as well as the other one did. So we can switch that back. Like so, and that's just keeping the volume in the wings. Obviously, we need to repeat that for all the other layers. So what I'll do is I'm just going to pause the video while I just quickly go through and update those expressions for the other parts of the wing. So those are all updated now. As you can see, the wing looks a lot better. It's keeping its volume a lot more, just by, again, just playing around with the expressions and just trying out different things. And it's important to do things like this and just try different poses and just to make sure everything is working. Now, as you can see, we've got the wing, we've got it posed, it's in there, we've got a bit of intersection there, but we just need to tilt that out slightly. But that's basically the left wing done. So what we need to do now is just quickly copy these across and apply them to the right wing. Now the problem is if we go duplicate description now, it's not going to put it into a new collection. So what we need to do is just create a new description. Let's just select that right wing to start off with. I don't want to apply that. Ooh, that's better. Click the wrong button there. What I want to do is create a new description, and we'll just call this temp, because it's only going to be deleted anyway, because all we want is the collection name. So wing, call it wing right, and we're just going to click create. Now I'm just going to delete this description, because all we want is the collection. So let's go back to wing left, primary left, and I'm going to go to duplicate description. So now we can duplicate wing left, primary left, copy it to wing right, primary, and we'll rename this to right. Click duplicate, like so. So now let's go to right, primary right. Let's just drop that down. And what we want to do is replace with selected faces, like so. Now you can see this is why we're not just straight using exactly the same description on the other wing, because this is using it now, but we've got some, you know, the positions aren't right. So that's why we've got a separate description so that we can adjust them. And maybe we adjust the around n down to 0. As you can see, that's flattened that wing out nicely. So we've got those descriptions on there. What I'm going to do is change this to delete these two and add in the right feather primary A and B. And this is because when it comes to render, the left ones will work fine, but the right ones will not show up. So you have to have a separate archive for each one. We're just going to remove these, and then we'll add in the other archives. Let's go up, archives. So this time I'm going to right primary A and B. We don't want to bring in the shader, so that's better. And as you can see, we can, if we want this wing to be completely different, I mean, I know you can tell that there's slight differences between them, but if we want this wing to be completely different, we can give it a different generator seed. So on this side, we've got 0, 1, 2, 3. So this could be 4. Just to add a bit more variety into the wing. So all you need to do now is just go through and duplicate the other descriptions. So I'm just going to do that now exactly the same way. We select, go to description, duplicate description. So this time we'll do the cover, and we'll change that to cover right. We'll duplicate this. Now we'll switch to cover right, and then we need to apply it to this model here. So we've already got these faces selected. I'm just going to increase that selection, invert that selection, and then it will be replaced with selected faces. And again, because it's the opposite side, we need to adjust these feathers. So maybe it's the around N, maybe the opposite way. It's usually 90 degrees, so minus 90, like so. So I'm just going to pause the video while I do the other two, the upper and lower, and then we will just look at the wings. So those are those other descriptions copied and are transferred across and applied to the right wing. And in here we can see that we've got the two collections. We've got our wing right now, and we've got cover, primary, lower and upper right. So they're all sorted, and there's just a little bit of tweaking to do with some of the values on the right wing there. I think some of the tilts, maybe Drop that down a little bit. The same with the lower one. But they just need playing around with now and adjusting to suit your needs. And I'm going to leave you now to play around with those. Again, just test by going up to our pose and just seeing how the wings look. I mean, as we look at the pose here, we could maybe have them a bit longer. But that's entirely up to you, and that's there for you to play around with now until you're happy to move to the next stage. And I think what we'll do in the next stage is maybe, I've been discussing the shaders and the archives a little bit as we've been going through, but I think what we'll do in the next video is look at actually getting the wings to render properly and stripping out the shaders that aren't needed and applying back on just one shader for the whole of the feathers.